Alright guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm really excited to talk about something that you guys are seeing right here. And today I actually have a story to tell you and a lot of stuff to tell you about this new addition to my game room, which is the LG OLED 4K E6 TV. And what makes this TV special? Why are we talking about an LG OLED TV? Well, this is actually a 3D TV, and it is the last 3D TV that was made, and it was not only the last one made by LG, or one of the last ones right back in 2016 or 2017 when they stopped making 3D TVs, but it was also known to be the best 3D that ever came out for home use. Basically, the 3D basically hit the pinnacle of that stuff right before, you know, the 3D market kind of crashed and then all it went away, unfortunately, for home use. But it was the best TV made back then. And I've been having my eye on this for a while, but this thing is huge. This is a 65-inch. They also made a 55-inch variant as well. I got my hands on a 65-inch here, and we got some stories to tell on how I actually acquired this and the hassle I'm still going through with this TV. But I'm really excited because I've been wanting this TV for a while because it's the best version of 3D, and we're going to get into why that is and why this TV was so sought after and still is to this day by 3D enthusiasts, what I think about it now that I have one, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it, and I'm going to tell you guys everything this TV can do. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so here we are with my LG OLED 4K TV that we were talking about. Again, the 3D version. And right here on the side, and you guys are getting a little bit of a sneak preview of my game room tour of 2023. Guys, when I tell you everything in this room has changed and everything in this whole house has changed, that's underselling it. This is the most amount of drastic changes I made to the game room, and you guys are getting a little bit of a sneak peek of that today. But this is my 3D Blu-ray collection right here, and these are the 3D glasses right here that you use, and these are called passive glasses. These are different technology than what you guys have seen in other videos or other things that were used. Passive glasses, this one does not require any batteries or anything like that, which is fantastic. And it's really comfortable and really easy to put on, and they're really lightweight, and you don't have to worry about anything. But not only that, but it makes the 3D viewing experience even better. So what is it about these LG 3D OLEDs? So first of all, let me tell you guys a story on exactly how I got into this and how I actually got one of these TVs. So here is the OLED TV box, and this is what I got. I first bought this from eBay. These TVs are really sought after. They're really expensive. Like you can see there, it's an E6 65-inch. But the problem is that not only are they expensive, but they're also always had an issue, because remember, OLEDs back in the day always had an issue with burn-in. And the guy advertised this TV on eBay. He had it up for $1,800 or best offer. I gave him $1,500. He took it. And I got this TV in, was really excited. I knew about the burn-in issues, and I was fine with it because all the TVs on eBay had burn-in issues, because some are better than others, but they're all going to be there, and sometimes it shows up in different colors. Sometimes it varies on, you know, how often it shows up. And he said it was mostly not seen in games and movies, and it only showed up in certain scenes. So cool. I was fine with it. Get the TV, and the first thing I noticed with this TV, so I actually have the TV sitting right here to the side in one of my bedrooms here, just kind of waiting to, unfortunately, return it, because what happened was that he listed it like I just described. He only listed a couple of colors. Green and red, and then he said the burn-in was kind of not visible in most scenes. So as soon as I get the TV, I start watching content, and the burn-in is literally on every scene I watch. The burn-in is very apparent. It's like an NBC logo with like 4 or 5 different colors on the logo, and it's really apparent and all over the actual screen. But what became worse about it is the fact that I was going to live with it. I was actually going to keep the TV. I got it for $1,500. That's cheaper than what they usually sell for. They usually sell for good ones like over $2,500. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep it. It's fine. Blah, blah, blah. But then I started watching movies and noticed that the yellowing effect the yellows are all wrong. And my wife came down and watched the same thing. And you guys are seeing a picture right now. And that's exactly what it looks like anytime there's yellow on the screen. So Minions, all the characters were all green. Again, he didn't have yellow in his description or anything, so otherwise I would have noticed, but the yellows were nowhere in this whole center of the screen, the whole entire square box in the center. It was all of that color. Anything that was yellow would appear green. And since yellow is used in skin tones for people's faces, when characters were in the center, it would also have lime green all over the place. And we're not talking about a faint green either. it was literally lime green. So when I was watching Aladdin and stuff, anything that should have been green or should have been yellow was all appearing as literally lime green. So it made everything unwatchable and unplayable. I was playing PS3 games, and any road signs when I was playing racing games and everything that was supposed to be yellow were all green. It just made the whole entire thing distracting, not as described in any way, shape, or form. And I was like, great, I have to return this TV. So now I'm going through the eBay return process to get this gigantic TV out of the house, which was really, really annoying that I had to deal with. And the guy's trying to make it seem like he advertised it correctly, even though he definitely did not. But anyway, I digress. That was my story of how I actually got my first one that is now being returned. So now going back to the one I actually have in my possession is when I happened to have to return that one, I started looking around for another one. I saw there was a few on eBay. There's not that many, 2,500 or more. Most of them had the burn-in issues, and most of them were not getting back to me, letting me know if they had any issues with the yellowing effect and stuff like that. So I kind of gave up, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just check Craigslist, because Facebook Marketplace had nothing. And then I started checking Facebook Marketplace, and I actually found one. There was one guy literally 10 minutes away from me that had it, and that's the one that I have here. And I don't know who uses Craigslist these days. I never check Craigslist anymore because everyone I thought was on Facebook and eBay and stuff and Mercari. But found one, and I actually contacted him. It was posted 3 weeks ago. It was still available, and it was for $800, guys. Or sorry, it was listed for $1,000, but he took $800. So I got it for half off, and this is this TV there. It has less than 8,000 hours of use, which is like 4,000 hours less than the other one. But the colors on this one are beautiful. Let me tell you, I've never seen a 3D TV like this before, but we'll get into that in a minute. But let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So this one has very minimal issues. So with this yellow screen that you're seeing here on the other TV, it was completely green, all in the center. So right here across the center, this whole entire box was all lime green. On here, what you can see very faintly is there's some green lines right there, which is the burn-in being caused right there. There's a little bit of green lines right there, and then right there in the actual corner there from the logo. But this is what I would consider somebody listing as being faintly not being able to be seen in most screens, because this is actually not really seen in most content that I watch or play. Again, you're not going to get a TV like this from back in the day that has no burn-in at all, because people didn't take care of it. People were watching the same stuff, so it was impossible to get a TV without burn-in. It's about getting the ones that have the least amount possible, essentially. And I basically hit gold with paying $800 for this one. This is one you could easily sell on eBay for $3,000 or more, considering how clean this one is, because it literally only shows up in the yellow area right there in the corner, and only when it's full screen yellow in that area. This yellow looks beautiful. Otherwise, movies actually look yellow when they're supposed to, and it looks fantastic. This is the PS3 running. And then in blue, as you can see here, when I scroll over, the blue, you can't see it at all. You can see it looks perfectly clean. Nothing on the corner there. Everything looks fantastic in blue, and there's no issues here. So it all depends on the color on the screen, the yellow being the most obvious, but the blue one looks great. And this blue looks good as well. It's a little bit fainted over there in the corner, but that's a really small blemish that, like I said, doesn't appear in movies or games. It looks really, really, really good. And especially because these models, you know, especially in pitch black, you don't see anything, of course, in pitch black. The colors on this are fantastic, and it's as good as you can get for a set like this that was used. Like I said, I basically hit a gold mine on here to have it this perfect on this TV. And again, it doesn't show up in that stuff. And that corner doesn't show up in hardly any content like it actually was advertised, which is fantastic. But now let's get into what makes this TV special. Why do I have this TV, and what makes everyone think this is the best 3D TV? So before we get into that, we got to talk about the 3D glasses that I have here in the corner. So these 3D glasses, like we said, are passive glasses. What makes this important is that when you're playing 3D games and stuff like that on this TV, they don't have batteries. They're a lot more comfortable to wear. And I don't know how to explain this in very technical terms here. I'm just going over this broadly. But essentially, the old 3D glasses that I was wearing, you know, like on this, you know, that we're all familiar with my projector that I have, the Epson 5040 that you're seeing here right now. Those glasses are battery operated, and they use active shutter. So essentially, the glasses are being done, and they're basically you know, they're actively shuttering really fast on each eye, you know, fast over and over and over again on each eye. It's not as cool. It's not as easy to wear. Sometimes it gets people dizzy a little bit, and even though I never had that issue, but the image isn't as good and all that kind of stuff. And they're active shutter glasses, and with those glasses on the Epson projector, when you're watching a movie, for the 3D to work with those, what happens is that the resolution gets lost, because when you're watching 3D glasses, when it's proportionally giving you one image on one eye and one image on the other, you lose a little bit of that horizontal clarity, because it's kind of making the image, you know, it goes down a little bit in image clarity, essentially, with active shutter glasses like that. So not only do you have to deal with the battery, but you're not getting the full 1080p image when you're watching it, so you're losing some clarity. Now, what sets this TV apart, and is essentially, because this TV is essentially 4K, even though 3D movies are 1080p, it has that extra resolution to play with. And what they did with passive glasses and this 4K panel that LG did is that basically, since they have that many more lines to work with, essentially each eye that you're using in the active glasses gets one image over here. So let's say that, just think about this TV having one image here, or one line here, one line here, one line here, one line here, and it goes all the way across, right? And it's essentially one line being skipped. So each each pair of glasses is getting one of those lines on the TV as you're watching it. And each of those lines, when you take them all into account, since it's a 4K panel, essentially creates a 1080p image. So the left eye gets a 1080p image, and the right eye gets a 1080p image because the TV is 4K altogether. So the passive glasses on a 4K panel like this let that happen. So now you're getting full 1080p images on these glasses and on these while you're watching 1080p movies because of that extra bandwidth of 4K on this TV. So that's never been done before, and you've never seen 3D like this before. It's essentially how movies do it with these passive glasses, which is why 3D movies look a lot better in the cinema as opposed to these 1080p projectors that are doing 3D, because they're essentially having that image in half and you're not getting that full 1080p image anymore. So not only does the passive glasses are they more comfortable to wear and no battery life on this, you're getting the fact that this is a 4K TV, so you're getting the full 1080p image per eye, which has never been done before, but then you're getting the OLED aspect of it, so the colors are rich and vibrant. You know, the deep blacks on here as well, and all that kind of stuff in the HDR, all that stuff is all there, and you get to see it in glorious 3D. And it's sad that this is how 3D ended, because I think if people would have saw 3D on here back then, they would have really saw what 3D can do. Because let me tell you guys, I have never seen 3D look this good. 3D has never looked this good on a panel before. If you guys can get your hands on this and you're 3D fans, you have never seen, if you've only used a 1080p 3D projector and you've not used one of these OLED 4K 3D TVs that were out back in the day, especially this model here, this will literally blow you away. When I first watched Avatar and Titanic and, you know, Pixar movies and stuff like that, this is tenfold between the colors, the contrast, the 1080p image going to each eye, how comfortable the glasses are to wear, never having to worry about charging them and stuff like that. This is a brand new experience of how good these movies look. I'm really going through my collection now, buying more movies and kind of watching them all over again, because that's exactly how good these images actually look. One of the other cool features about this TV here is the dual play functionality on here that you could turn on in the options here. So essentially what happens here is you can take any console you want, N64, Super Nintendo, Xbox 360, PS3, whatever it may be. If you play split screen games like the one I'm playing here, which is Cell Damage, that splits the image up in half, essentially you can see that the image just flipped and now it's only one image. And essentially what happens is, if you guys use the dual play glasses that they made with these TVs, which I have a pair, essentially there's one player that wears one type of glasses, another player that wears the other one, and they see their, you know, split screen view in full screen while covering one eye. You can kind of see it with one eye, and you will actually see the whole entire image, which is really cool when you're playing split screen gaming. So everyone has their own full view on here, which is really, really cool. You can do this with any game. It's not game dependent or anything, or console dependent. It's literally just a feature that gets activated. Obviously, you're not seeing images in 3D anymore when you're playing like this. You're just seeing the full screen and split screen. You guys obviously remember this functionality on the PlayStation 3 that I have here with the PlayStation 3D TV that I showed off here, where they had something really similar, but in this version, they actually had it so the games had to support it. It was called Simulcast, and there was about 7 or 8 games that supported it, and it was the exact same thing. You could play split-screen gaming. The only difference here is that the LG kind of splits the image, so it kind of like stretches it out a little bit. So you lose a little bit of resolution on the LG TV when you do it, but the capability of the fact that you can use it in any game, in any system, is great. Where on the PlayStation 3 side, they specifically made it so it looks perfect on each game, but unfortunately we only got 8 games that fully supported it in this manner. So essentially now I have all my newer consoles over here. That kind of makes sense here, that are HD consoles. I have component over here and also HDMI consoles here that I can play, so you can see that there. And I use them to play 3D. Of course, the PS3 has 3D games, and the Xbox 360 there in the corner has 3D games, so I play them on here. And, you know, they work fantastic. So the next topic we got to talk about is my 3D PC. Now you guys know I have this 3D dedicated PC. We've made videos about it in the past where I use this 3D machine as a 2080 Ti in it, and that's how I play all my 3D Vision games on it, and I use it on this Asus 28-inch monitor, which is a 3D monitor. I have my Nvidia 3D glasses right here from back in the day, and my 3D emitter, and that's been working fantastically. We've talked about that video on why I need to use an older PC, because you need to use the older graphics drivers and all that kind of stuff to get this stuff to work. Cool. So what changed? Well, what changed is we got that TV. So what changed is, as you guys can see on my Steam category right now, I actually have 2 new categories that I created. You have my 3D games at the top, which I use for my 3D Vision machine, and now you can see all the new games that I started to get to work on my new PC. What does that mean? So you can see all these different games here like Bright Memory, God of War, Final Fantasy VII, Days Gone, It Takes Two, Kenya Bridge of Spirits, Lego Star Wars: The Star Wars Saga, NBA Playgrounds 2, Marvel's Midnight Sun. So a lot of great games on this list, right? So what actually changed? Well, what's changed is that I'm actually using my 3D on my new PC now that has a 4080 on it. Now, how did that actually happen? Well, because of that TV that I have over there that we're going to talk about, now what happens is I can actually use this PC, this newer gen PC, with 2 different technologies that are out there, which is essentially, and you could have done this on the old 3D Vision PC, but I had no reason to because I was using my 3D Vision, which is more compatible with a lot of older games and all that stuff, so I never did this. But now I have a reason to, because I can use it on my TV, and essentially you can use things like SBS, which is side by side, or top and bottom, or interlace mode, which is what passive TV is displayed. And now I can connect this PC over to my new TV over there, and essentially what happens is I can actually play these games in 3D. With these newer games. And the reason that that works is because there's 2 things that are being worked on out there by the community. One is the universal fix for Unreal Engine 4. So any games that are on Unreal Engine 4, there's a universal 3D plugin that for the most part works really well. Sometimes there's some issues on some of the games. It's not like, 100% perfect, but most of the games I've tried have been really, really good. And they just add 3D by putting a bunch of files in a folder, and then you go onto your TV and you basically do either SBS mode or top and bottom or interlace mode, change one line in a config, 3D games on that passive 3D TV that I talked about, and it looks and plays fantastic because you're playing games now in 4K or up to 4K if your card can handle it. And now I got the power of a 4080 running these 4K games in 3D, and they look absolutely fantastic on that OLED display. The other thing that someone is working on in the community as well with a bunch of other people's help is Geo 11. Geo 11 is essentially a modification of these games as well. It works the exact same way as what I was talking about, except it's not just for Unreal Engine games. It's essentially a driver that someone works on that he individually goes in there and fixes these games one at a time and makes sure 3D works well and all that kind of stuff. It has to be DX11 games. DX12 games are completely out of the picture. We can't get DX12 games to work in any way, shape, or form in 3D right now. But if they're DX11 games, we can get a lot of those games to work as he comes out with them. Games like Resident Evil that he worked on. He added Resident Evil. He worked on all those. He added Halo: The Master Chief Collection. Games that, again, are not made in Unreal, so the universal fix doesn't work. But even if they're working, even if they're made in other engines, he can get it to work with his Geo 11 drivers if he manually, does all that work. So a lot of hard work is being done by the community to get these games to work in 3D. And it's the exact same fashion. The Geo 11 driver lets you use SBS mode or top or bottom or DX9 mode in certain cases, or DX11 and stuff like that. You can even technically get the older games working on this TV as well. But I'm just not going through that hassle because I tried getting them to work and I was having some issues. You can essentially install a hack into that TV, EDID hack that makes it think it's a 3D Vision monitor, and then you can get DX9 games to work and some of the older stuff. But for me, it makes perfect sense that I still use this 3D dedicated PC with a 2080 Ti for the time being, and I play my older games on here. Like, the Batman Arkham Knight series games and stuff like that are not, Geo 11 compatible or Universal Fix compatible that we just talked about. And I use that here. And anything that is on my newer PC that are DX11 games and stuff like that that are working with Geo 11 or Universal Fix, that's what I play on my newer TV over there. But this works fantastic. It looks super, super good on that TV. And it's just fantastic that now I have an Nvidia 3D Vision PC that I can use on a TV that gives me, the OLED colors and gives me the 4K resolution that I can play these games at, and gives me the ability to use the power of a 4080 now, since we can use newer PCs and actually get some 3D games working. Even if it's not every single one, It's still more compatible to have a dedicated build with older drivers on a 2080 Ti like we talked about in future videos. That's still going to give you the most compatibility across all games, but now we have other options. And let me tell you, the 3D games in these games, the 3D in this looks phenomenal on the TV. I wish I could showcase it in this video, but it's impossible. But it will literally blow your mind of how good these games can look in 4K and in 3D on an OLED panel. Alright guys, so that is exactly what I have going on here with this 3D TV, and this 3D TV is fantastic like we were just talking about. This literally blew my mind compared to everything else that I've used before. And the fact that I can actually use this TV and, you know, play all of these games on it, all that kind of stuff is just fantastic, guys. And if you guys can get your hands on this TV, I definitely would if I were you, because it's definitely going to blow your mind compared to anything else that's been out there before. I see why people were talking about this. It's too bad 3D died when this TV came out, because like I said, I think if people would have saw this, 3D would have stuck around for much longer, because when movies are made correctly and you watch them on a panel like this at full 1080p with these glasses on, it's really a surreal experience. And the PS3 and the Xbox 360 have never looked better playing those 3D games. And of course my Nvidia 3D PC, now that I have, you know, all that going like we were just talking about, the fact that I can play, you know, 4K games on here in 3D, amazing stuff. Even if I have to lower some of the settings sometimes because of how much power it demands, but now I can use my newer PC as well because of this TV like we talked about. So really, really cool stuff, guys. Really, really happy with this TV. Happy to have it to my collection. It makes perfect sense for somebody who loves 3D as much as me to get my hands on this, and I'm super happy with how everything turned out, even without annoyance about getting that first one from eBay that didn't really work out in any way, shape, or form. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, guys, and if you guys have any questions about anything we talked about in today's video, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.